Finally tonight, do you know the Hall of Fame itself has nothing to do with the players inducted into Cooperstown? They handed off a responsibility they actually wanted to own in the first place. Here's a history lesson. Baseball's Hall of Fame was created in 1936 to increase tourism in Cooperstown, New York, which happens to be the hometown of Abner Doubleday. Remember, he was the man we all thought created the sport. But you do know that was a myth, right? Baseball was actually invented here in New York by a New York City firefighter. In 1845, Alexander Joy Cartwright drew up rules and created a league called the New York Knickerbocker Baseball Club. Knickerbocker was the name of the company that built his fire engine. But when the hall was built, everybody believed the Doubleday myth, and the shrine was created to help revive business after the Great Depression. So now the next question, how do you select the inductees? Well, the honor goes to the baseball writers. I mean, they cover the games, they see the players, but that wasn't the original plan. The original plan was for the Hall of Fame itself to nominate players, and writers would pick from that bunch. But the writers bickered about the nominees, so the Hall changed the rules, and instead the writers were now asked to submit nominees. And those who received 75% would get enshrined into Cooperstown, and that 75% rule still holds true today. But it's always been the writers' job to vote the players into Cooperstown. Certainly a job they undoubtedly all take seriously, but some don't actually want that job anymore, and maybe with good reason. First and foremost, because journalists shouldn't make the news. Starting next year, every writer will have to reveal his or her full ballot. That means they'll need to address why they did or didn't vote for a steroids user. They're going to be making the news. Secondly, writers don't want to have a say in a player's financial return. A player who can write HOF after his name can make millions. According to the SMR Price Guide, which is the autograph Bible, the moment a player gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, the value of their items triple. Add to that, the writers are always getting yelled at. I mean, just this week, admitted steroids user and 1988 MVP Jose Canseco blasted the writers for voting in a couple of guys with connections to PEDs, Jeff Bagwell and Ivan Rodriguez. Their induction proved one thing. The writers' stance on PED use has softened. But why? All right, maybe no sport loves their tradition like baseball. It is still called America's pastime. There is no more prestigious place in sports history than within the halls of Cooperstown. Baseball writers have been forced to become the gatekeepers of the hall's integrity. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens were essentially blacklisted from the Hall from their connection with PEDs. A similar fate was suffered by players whose reputation has also been sullied by rumored PED use. We can all agree that baseball, at the very least, was slow to address the steroids problem. In fact, some might say they were part of the problem. This is Greg Stexel. He was the FBI agent in charge of the steroids investigation called Operation Equine. In 1993, the FBI discovered Mark McGwire was using steroids and told Major League Baseball. Then Commissioner Bud Selig has always denied this fact, but the fact remains. After the unpopular strike of 1994, baseball was absolutely rejuvenated by the home run chase of '98 between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And overseeing that era was Bud Selig. So when the Hall of Fame created this new 16-man committee this year called the Today's Game Committee, writers watched from afar as Bud Selig was voted in. The man who presided over the sport when some of the most iconic and cherished records fell to those accused of doping. Baseball's Hall of Fame has always absolved themselves of the voting process. They wanted nothing to do with standing on either sides of the steroids issue, but voting in Selig maybe shows they've picked a side and found firm footing. Because of that, some writers have already said they're unlocking the gates to cheaters and dopers. Hey, if the Hall of Fame is going to let them in, who are we protecting? That's why this year Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens inched closer to enshrinement. You still need 75% to get in, and both are at 54%. Expect them to get in soon. And maybe the Hall of Fame themselves should vote them in, at the same time admitting that baseball's history is tainted with dopers and cheaters. Because no matter how you feel about their character or their integrity, you cannot deny the history of baseball can't be told without Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. It's part of baseball's true history, warts and all. It may not be pretty, but at least it's real.